Hey guys, what's going on? It's the Friday before Christmas, and welcome to Better Assholes. This is the only podcast of its type in the world. We're number one somewhere in the world, Mars. Anyways, so, you know, let's talk about something interesting. We've had this last few days, we've been talking about Canada, right? Here and there, at least, some Canada stuff, some Trump stuff, some Trudeau stuff. A lot of Trudeau sucks and Canada's gone downhill type of stuff. So, on that type of note, what I've been finding very interesting, and here's what I've noticed. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. I was sitting on YouTube and just, I don't know, early morning, just browsing around. I don't look at TV much anymore. So I decided, pop on YouTube, see what's going on. And, checking some live news and whatever. And I see the Canadian Parliament, a live recording of the Parliament session in Ottawa. So I start watching it, and this is interesting. That's really interesting, just seeing it live, because I know, there's a specific Parliament channel, I believe, that just broadcasts this live, and it's not usual to see, one of the Canadian broadcasting networks broadcast the Canadian Parliament. You don't see it. It's usually that specific CPAC channel or whatever they call it now that broadcasts the Parliament sessions. So I kind of take a look, and it's the Times of India. And it's all these kind of Indian people commenting. And, it kind of caught me off guard because we're here in Canada. And not only the CBC not broadcast our parliament, but they don't broadcast India's parliament or any other country's parliament live. So it's kind of weird that the Indian government's doing this. And then my wife points out that, she sees a lot of these articles pop up, like a lot of propaganda articles that come out of India about Canada. And it's like the Times of India spends half of its time writing articles about Canada. This is very concerning and very interesting because, lately we've been dealing with international students, quote unquote, international students, which are, barely students. So this fits into, there's a lot of basically organized crime, people smuggling, inside agents, international students, all sorts of stuff going on. And it's very, this is mind blowing, right? Because the Indian government knows that it's realistically dumping Indian people in Canada under false pretenses of international students. These are people that are, you'll see a 50-year-old international student going to get a diploma in a strip mall. They're going to Tim Hortons College in a strip mall. So I don't know how to do, computer help desk diploma. So you got a computer help desk diploma from Tim Hortons College in some, small shady town in Ontario. This, and the problem is the government is approving these people to come in. They're approving all these documents which are fake. They're not vetting these people, and so therefore it's creating a huge problem. And so who are profiting? The immigration lawyers here, which are basically people smugglers from India. The people smugglers in India, which are also immigration lawyers, right? You catch that trend. You have the Indian government, which is basically sponsoring. They're taking a blind eye to this because they know, the Indian people here are sending money back home and bringing people over. And, it's gotten to a point where you see it, the Filipinos do it. I think there was a number that I don't know offhand, but the Filipino economy is basically run on money sent from the Western world, from Filipinos living abroad. India has something like this going on. There's so much money with organized crime. So what's happening here is some Indian farmer will pay to have their, kid or whatever, somebody in their family come to Canada as an international student under false pretenses. This person will get here. They'll get a job. They'll actually pay somebody here to get a job. another Indian under the table. They get paid under the table, so the government doesn't know what's going on. They'll work that under the table. They'll maybe work a legit job as well, just so that they're allowed to, so they'll do that, right? So that doesn't really add for much for Canadians. They do this and then they'll work a lot cheaper. So you'll see, you know, say there was a whole time where help desk jobs, somebody would be working on, say, a help desk at a computer company or whatever, Best Buy or whatever, and they're paying what, $20 an hour. One of these people will come along and say, well, you know what? I'll be happy to work for $15 an hour because I don't know anything. I'm new here. I'm willing to do the work for cheaper. So the companies want to hire these people to do work for cheaper. Our government basically started sponsoring these businesses. As a business, you would hire an international student or a refugee, and the government will give you, as an employer, money towards paying this person's salary. At the end of the day, when you were paying $5 to $10 to hire an Indian foreign student, it was a lot more cost effective than hiring Canadians to do this job. So this is where we're kind of having this problem. So basically, everywhere you go, every fast food restaurant, it doesn't matter how in the middle of nowhere you are, you will see Indian people at Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Wendy's, A&W, you name it. And so what tends to happen is they will it's almost like a scam. So imagine you have 10 people that come into the country with their life savings. And one person says, well, you know what? Everybody gives me $20,000, $30,000. I'll start a company. I'll get everybody a work permit. This is basically how things go. So when you walk into these restaurants and you go from Jim, the manager, to, Arshpreet, the manager, you'll notice the staff completely changes 100%. You'll never see another person that's not Indian. Given all this stuff, this is kind of a big problem for a lot of people that are Indian as well. Because if you look at it, they are good, honest people that came here, especially, back in the 80s when everybody was immigrating to Canada. They're good, honest people that came here. A lot of doctors, engineers, computer scientists, a lot of good people. And now they're having hard times because what happens is when you let in all the bad people and they look like all the good people, then everybody gets, upset. And especially when there's an imbalance. So when you go from a community and you have 10 white people and 2 black people and 2 Indian people and 2 Chinese people, nobody cares. Everybody's happy and friendly. Now, when you're in a similar situation and now you've gone to 10 Indian people, 2 white people, 2 black people, 2 Asian people, whatever, everybody starts getting upset because, of course, right, things change. So you go from, your, I guess, pizza restaurants and burger joints and whatever to now there's 100 Indian restaurants. So, I mean, people don't like that. There's a lot of stuff going on. But it's not really a thing against them. It's just too many people at one time. And then with all the bad apples, the mismanagement, just, problems with housing, immigration, everything right now, Justin Trudeau, taxes, the economy, nobody's into seeing a government get completely infiltrated and destroyed by another country. This is basically what's happening. So now that's kind of maybe the nicer side of things. The side that's kind of okay, people are companies from India pretending to be international students. They just want to get PR. They bring their family here. You get 100 people because everybody will bring somebody over. If you bring your family, they'll bring somebody over. The key is you come over, you bring your mother, your father, your brothers, sisters. They all get married to somebody from back home. And so then they bring those back home people here and then their family. So you do have it's a lot, but that's, it's a problem, but it's the more innocent side of things. Other side of things now, where things have gotten crazy, is that back in India, there's a movement to separate, the Khalistani movement or whatever they call it. It's a movement. I believe it's the Punjabs want to take this Punjabi province area and separate from the rest of India or whatever. It's under its own control. Kind of how you see the Kurds do in Iraq, the Kurdistani people, where they don't really have an actual, country, right? But they have an area, they call it Kurdistan, and they kind of govern it themselves. So India doesn't want these people kind of separating, starting their own government and having a political movement. So because there was a current movement going on in India, and a lot of Punjabis and a lot of Sikhs moved here to Canada, they've brought all this, I guess, protesting and anti-government sentiment. They've actually turned Canada into like a new base, a new Indian base for this separation movement. So now the Indian government's starting to assassinate some of these people in Canada and other countries. There's a lot of issues with intimidation, with extortion, with blackmail. You're hearing stories about agents back home contacting family Indians here, telling them that their family members back home are in trouble, in serious trouble. Especially if you have a lot of family members, that's not a good thing. They're being told, hey, back home, your family's in trouble. You need to transfer this money. You need to come back to India. You need to close up your businesses. You need to leave Canada. You need to, give up your passport and come back to India, or else we're going to kill your family. Right? So this type of stuff is happening. And so here in Canada, you're starting to notice a lot of the government. So it seems a lot of people come here. A lot of Indians have been coming here and then immediately getting into government positions and using those government positions here in Canada to benefit India and benefit, their people. And we're seeing it a lot, right? How many times have we seen, there was just a case where an Indian family scammed the Ontario government out of millions. That's happened a few times. And then they go back home. When you have dual passports, as you see with a lot of the crime, a lot of the other issues, you take your passport from India and you go back home with it. And you never come back to Canada and you get away with murder. People do literally get away with murder. It's tough. And it's something that we don't want to, we don't want to make this a race issue. You don't want to make things like this into something that makes people racist, but it's hard because you put a bad note in people's mouths, right? When you come to Canada to study, you're expected to leave when you're done studying, but instead you decided to stay. And then to add insult to injury, you're going to stay, scam the government, and then badmouth Canadians that are born here, that have lived here their whole lives, whose parents have been here their whole lives, and you're going to insult those people. And you're going to try to make it seem, what we're seeing is these people telling, they're here for a student visa, and you're telling Canadians, hey, you're not Canadian, you stole this land. Well, let me tell you something about stolen land. Let me tell you about a little clue about India. Don't believe that's, most of the people originated there. Anyhow, we are 50 minutes in, and we're kind of going to end with that. Until next time.